It's like you're having a nightmare and you wake up and it's true. It's really happening. It's not a nightmare. It's really happening. That's what it felt like.
So giving up your entire life, your home, your family, and moving across the world for a fairy tale romance, only to find out your Prince Charming is actually someone else's husband. That is exactly what happened to Jenny, and it remains one of the most jaw-dropping betrayals in reality TV history. But what you saw on our screens was barely scratching the surface of the absolute nightmare she walked into. We all know she went to India for Sumit, but the untold truth behind closed doors is much darker and, frankly, much more expensive. When the walls closed in, she didn't just need a divorce lawyer. She needed $15,000 in cold, hard cash to literally buy his freedom, or else he was facing severe legal consequences that would have kept him locked away for a very long time. It's the ultimate irony. She sacrificed everything to move there, only to be held financially hostage by a secret family she never knew existed. Before we dive into this absolute madness and the leaked rumors currently circulating online, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on the real stories behind your favorite reality stars. So let's get straight into it and look at the exact moment the trap was sprung. Jenny lands in India, deeply in love, thinking she's about to start her happily ever after. But instead of a wedding ring and a warm welcome, she gets ambushed by cold, harsh reality. Sumit's family had forced him into an arranged marriage right under her nose, and the first wife's family wasn't just mad about the betrayal, they wanted serious payback. They laid out a chilling ultimatum that would change everything. Hand over $15,000, which is roughly 16 to 17 lakh rupees, as immediate compensation. If she didn't, they wouldn't just refuse the divorce papers. They promised to drag Sumit through the system and have him put behind bars for his actions. It was a massive, suffocating trap. Jenny, panicking and desperate to save the man she loved, immediately checked her bank accounts, hoping she had enough to make the nightmare go away. What she saw completely broke her. Zero. Her balance was practically empty. She was stranded in a foreign country, completely broke, and the clock was ticking on Sumit's freedom. But here is where it gets incredibly suspicious. I was scrolling through TikTok recently, and some deep dive reality TV accounts brought up a wild theory that shifts this entire perspective. Rumors suggest that this exact $15,000 figure wasn't just a random number for emotional compensation. Speculation is swirling that certain family members might have vastly exaggerated the legal threats to squeeze every last dime out of the American girlfriend. While this is just internet chatter, it makes you wonder if Jenny walked right into a carefully orchestrated financial ambush designed to drain her resources. It's been said that local insiders knew exactly how much panic it would cause, effectively using her love against her. But that wasn't the whole story. Faced with absolute ruin, Jenny found herself in the ultimate credibility dilemma. She had spent years trying to prove to her family back in America that her relationship with Sumit was legitimate, that he wasn't a scammer, and that she was making a smart, independent choice by moving across the globe. Now, she was sobbing in an unfamiliar city, staring at an empty bank account, realizing she had to do the one thing she promised herself she wouldn't ever do. She had to call her daughter, Christina, and beg for the cash. Crying through the phone, she spilled the entire chaotic truth. She needed $15,000 immediately to save her boyfriend from severe accusations that could ruin his life. Imagine being Christina in that moment. Her mother's desperate tears were impossible to ignore, and despite all the glaring red flags, she couldn't let her mom suffer alone in a foreign land. She scrambled, drained her own resources, and wired the massive sum of money across the world. This creates a massive double bind for Jenny's entire narrative. She was fighting to prove her love was real and secure, yet she had to rely on her daughter's bank account to literally buy her boyfriend back from his angry in-laws. Reports and rumors have recently claimed on Instagram that Christina was completely devastated by this transaction, feeling like she was paying a ransom rather than helping her mother build a beautiful new life. There's been a lot of buzz online about the aftermath of this phone call, with fans speculating that the financial strain almost shattered their mother-daughter relationship entirely. It's a bitter pill to swallow when the independence you bragged about is suddenly funded by the family members you left behind. And what happened next would shock everyone. With the $15,000 finally in hand, you would naturally think the nightmare was over and the dust would settle. But the stakes were about to escalate to a terrifying new level. Jenny didn't just wire the money to the local courts or hand it to a verified legal team. She handed every single penny of her daughter's hard-earned cash directly to Sumit's father. Yes, the very same man who had orchestrated Sumit's secret arranged marriage in the first place, hiding it from Jenny for months. The massive responsibility of paying off the first wife's family, settling the legal accusations, and navigating the harsh societal backlash was placed entirely in his hands. Talk about a dangerous gamble. Jenny had to blindly trust the patriarch of a family that had consistently lied to her and rejected her from day one. If his father decided to pocket the money, or if the first wife's family suddenly demanded more cash upon seeing the payout, Jenny and Sumit would be completely ruined with absolutely zero legal recourse to get that money back. The anxiety in that house must have been suffocating, waiting to see if the deal would actually go through. According to some wild speculation currently circulating on social media forums, there's been a lot of buzz that the payout didn't go exactly as smoothly as it was portrayed to the public. Some fans are speculating that secret deals were made behind closed doors, and that the $15,000 might have been leveraged in ways nobody ever mentioned on camera. Here's what's being said. It's entirely possible that Sumit's family used this crisis not just to pay off the ex-wife, but to exert total financial and emotional dominance over Jenny. By making his father the middleman, the power dynamic shifted permanently. She was now deeply indebted to the very people who tried to keep her and Sumit apart. When Sumit's father finally took that $15,000 to the secret wife's family, it delivered the ultimate concrete example of just how bizarre and twisted this entire relationship had become. Picture this scenario. An American woman, stranded in a foreign country, sitting anxiously in a room while the man who actively despises her takes her daughter's life savings to literally purchase his son's freedom from a secret marriage. It is the absolute knockout blow to any romantic illusion Jenny had left. This wasn't a fairy tale anymore. It was a cold, hard, off-the-books transaction. Sumit's father walked into that meeting holding all the cards, and the power dynamic was permanently altered. He was the one who handed over the cash, settled the legal accusations, and finalized the paperwork that kept Sumit out of a jail cell. But here is where the internet sleuths have completely lost their minds. I was scrolling through an incredibly detailed thread on Instagram recently, and a very prominent reality TV commentary account dropped a massive bombshell theory about this exact exchange. Rumors suggest that the first wife's family was initially demanding a much higher sum, or perhaps even harsher legal consequences, and that the $15,000 was just the absolute minimum required to stop the police from showing up at Sumit's door. There is also wild speculation that because Sumit's father acted as the middleman, nobody actually knows exactly how that money was dispersed. It's been said that there could have been secret negotiations, hidden fees, or cultural penalties that Jenny was completely kept in the dark about. Did all $15,000 actually go to the ex-wife, or was this a convenient way to bleed the American girlfriend dry and ensure she had no resources left to take Sumit away? While this is entirely and just fan speculation, the sheer fact that Jenny was completely cut out of the actual transaction process shows just how little control she had over her own life and finances at that moment. But that wasn't the whole story. This entire financial disaster perfectly exposes the deep, unavoidable behavioral flaw in Sumit's character that viewers have been screaming about for years. If you look closely at his actions, you see a masterclass in weaponized incompetence and relentless self-sabotage. Sumit is a man who consistently allows the women in his life to clean up his massive, life-altering mistakes. He allowed his parents to force him into an arranged marriage because he wouldn't stand up to them. He allowed Jenny to sell her belongings and fly across the world without telling her he was legally bound to another woman. And when the absolute worst-case scenario happened, and he was facing severe legal consequences and the threat of being locked away, what did he do? He sat back, cried, and let Jenny's daughter pay the literal ransom to fix his life. He plays the helpless victim perfectly, acting as though he is just a tragic romantic hero caught in the gears of a strict culture. But TikTok body language experts and psychologists have completely torn this narrative apart. I saw a viral video analyzing his behavior during these high-stress moments, and reports claim that his constant passivity is actually a highly manipulative defense mechanism. By acting paralyzed by fear and guilt, he forces Jenny into the role of the aggressor, the protector, and ultimately, the financier. He avoids all accountability by simply shutting down and letting the chaos unfold, knowing full well that Jenny loves him too much to let him face the actual consequences of his own lies. And what happened next would shock everyone. Trying to save his public image, Sumit attempted one of the most painfully inauthentic emotional appeals in television history. We all saw the scenes where he broke down in tears, begging for forgiveness, claiming that he hid the marriage because he was just so desperately afraid of losing Jenny. He tried to frame his massive deception as the ultimate act of true love. But the internet saw right through the crocodile tears. There's been a massive amount of buzz online about his crying fits, with fans pointing out the glaring inauthenticity of his emotional breakdowns. Viewers speculated that he wasn't crying because he felt bad about lying to Jenny. He was crying because his carefully constructed double life had completely collapsed, and he was terrified of the social and legal accusations surfacing against him. It was a failed emotional appeal on every level. You can't claim you are acting out of pure, selfless love when your actions directly result in your partner's daughter having to drain her savings account to keep you out of a cell. The audience instantly rejected his victim mentality. Instead of looking like a star-crossed lover, he looked like a coward who was perfectly willing to let two different women, his secret wife and his American girlfriend, bear the absolute brunt of his deceit. This spectacular failure to win over the audience's sympathy only highlighted how deeply toxic the foundation of their relationship truly was. This brings us to the crushing thematic hypocrisy of their entire journey. For years, Jenny's core moral argument was that true love conquers all obstacles. She preached to her friends, her family, and the cameras that their bond was so spiritual and profound that it transcended age, borders, and culture. She portrayed herself as a strong, independent woman fighting for her right to be happy. Yet, the glaring hypocrisy is that this so-called transcendent love was entirely dependent on a wire transfer from America. She wasn't conquering obstacles with the power of romance. She was literally buying her way out of a hostage situation. It is the ultimate double standard. She demanded that Sumit's family respect their relationship, while simultaneously proving to them that she was willing to act as an endless ATM to fix their son's criminal-level mistakes. Speculation online points out that this financial bailout might have actually ruined any chance of her ever gaining his family's genuine respect. Reports claim that by paying the $15,000, she didn't prove her love to his parents. She just proved she could be easily manipulated and drained of her resources. The core moral of her story mutated from a beautiful romance into a dark cautionary tale about the sunk cost fallacy. She had given up so much of her dignity, her time, and her family's money that leaving him was no longer an option. She was financially and emotionally trapped in a prison of her own making, desperately trying to justify the massive price tag attached to her boyfriend. Once the dust settled and the massive payout was finally finalized, the chilling reality check hit Jenny with the force of a freight train, thrusting her into a state of total, suffocating isolation. She was now entirely alone on a metaphorical island. Think about the sheer gravity of her situation. She had already alienated a huge portion of her friends and social circle back home to pursue this relationship, and now, her daughter Christina, who had been her rock and ultimate financial savior, was inextricably dragged into this massive trauma. Rumors on TikTok have recently suggested that this jaw-dropping $15,000 wire transfer didn't just drain a bank account, it severely damaged the foundational trust between mother and daughter. Speculation is swirling that, behind closed doors, Christina eventually had to set severe, heartbreaking boundaries, essentially telling her mother that she could no longer act as her emergency fund. It's been said that Jenny found herself quietly cut off from her primary emotional and financial support system back in America. On the flip side, she was living in a country where the local community and her partner's family still viewed her as an absolute outsider. Sumit's parents didn't suddenly welcome her with open arms just because the debt was paid and the severe legal accusations were dropped. Instead, they continued to treat her like a lingering symptom of a disease they couldn't cure. An incredibly popular deep dive Instagram account recently highlighted just how terrifying this isolation truly is when the cameras stop rolling. If things went south with Sumit tomorrow, where would she go? How would she afford a ticket back? She had burned her bridges, drained her family's safety nets, and chained herself to a man who couldn't even stand up to his own parents without using her wallet as a shield. This terrifying realization brings us directly to the absolute point of no return. By paying that astronomical sum to free Sumit from his secret marriage and those terrifying legal threats, Jenny crossed a psychological line she can never uncross. She didn't just save a relationship, she effectively purchased it. And when you buy someone out of their own catastrophic, life-altering mistakes, you inherit their baggage permanently. There is absolutely no going back to the naive, starry-eyed American woman stepping off the plane, hoping for a beautiful cultural exchange and a deeply spiritual romance. She is now a major stakeholder in a highly volatile, completely toxic family dynamic. Reports claim that this extreme financial bailout has permanently shifted the power balance in their home. It's been said that Jenny now lives with a constant, unspoken anxiety of having to protect her massive investment. What happens if Sumit makes another catastrophic mistake? What happens if his family suddenly demands more compensation to keep the peace? She has reached the ultimate point of no return because the sunk cost fallacy has completely consumed her entire existence. She willingly surrendered her retirement years, her peace of mind, and her own daughter's hard-earned savings. Leaving him now would mean looking in the mirror and admitting that the entire harrowing ordeal, the public humiliation, the countless tears, and the enormous pile of cash were all for absolutely nothing. She is entirely trapped in a gilded cage of her own design, forced to smile for the reality TV cameras and pretend that this exhausting, high-stakes hostage negotiation was actually just a beautiful, unconventional love story. This isn't just a reality TV storyline anymore. It's a chilling psychological thriller about the absolute extremes people will go to in order to avoid admitting they made the biggest mistake of their lives. The truth behind the carefully edited episodes is so much darker, and as more rumors suggest wilder behind-the-scenes secrets, we have to wonder how much more of this story is still hidden in the shadows waiting to be exposed. But what do you guys think about all of this? Was Jenny right to panic and empty her daughter's bank account to save the man she loved from being locked away, or did she walk blindly into the ultimate financial trap designed by his family? Let me know your absolute most honest thoughts down in the comments below. If you want to keep diving deep into the untold, highly controversial truths behind your favorite reality stars and the absolute madness that the television networks refuse to show you, you need to make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel right now. We are dropping shocking new deep dives and exposing the real stories every single week. And trust me, you do not want to miss what we are uncovering next. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.